I found a romantic cabin booking email. I cancelled quietly. And rebooked it under my name. My hands were still wet from washing strawberries when the iPad on the counter lit up with a banner notification. The little chime was so normal I almost ignored it. Then I saw the words "Your cabin is confirmed" and my brain did that thing where it doesn't fully understand what it's reading, but your stomach understands first. I wiped my fingers on the dish towel, stepped closer, and tapped the screen like my hand belonged to somebody else. The email opened fast, no password, because my husband, Andrew, never logs out of anything. The subject line said something like "Get ready for your romantic getaway," and underneath it was a photo of a cabin, warm lights, string bulbs, a hot tub steaming in the snow. My throat went tight. I scrolled. Dates. 2 nights. Check-in Friday. Check-out Sunday. 2 guests. Not a corporate retreat. Not the guys. The note to the host was right there in plain text: "We're celebrating our anniversary. Any chance you can have the fireplace going when we arrive?" My knees actually softened like I might sit down on the kitchen floor without deciding to. I didn't. I just stood there with the strawberry smell in my hands and the email burning a hole through my eyes. I could hear Andrew in the hallway, humming while he looked for his gym shoes, completely relaxed. The dryer thumped in the laundry room. The dog's tail tapped the cabinet like a metronome. Everything in the house sounded normal, and I was suddenly hyper-aware of my own breathing, how shallow it got, how my chest felt tight, how the air tasted like dish soap because my fingers were still damp. I took a screenshot, then another, then zoomed in on the details because my brain kept trying to argue with itself. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was spam. Maybe anniversary meant something else. I scrolled further and saw the payment confirmation. His card ending in the last 4 digits I know by heart. I scrolled again and saw the guest message thread with the host. The host's reply included, "Happy anniversary to you both." I swallowed so hard it hurt. Then I heard Andrew coming toward the kitchen and my body moved before my feelings did. I locked the iPad screen, set it back down like I'd just checked the weather, and smiled at him when he walked in like my face hadn't just been rearranged from the inside. "You good?" he asked, tugging his hoodie on. "Yeah," I said, and my voice sounded almost normal, which scared me. "Just cleaning up." He kissed my forehead, quick, thoughtless, and grabbed his water bottle. "I'll be back in an hour," he said. "Leg day." "Have fun," I heard myself reply. The second the door shut, I picked the iPad up again with shaking hands and opened the email. I didn't cry. Not because I'm tough. Because my body went into this stripped-down, practical mode, like it was protecting me from breaking apart in the middle of my kitchen. I forwarded the email to myself from his account with the subject line blank so it wouldn't look obvious in send items. Then I took screenshots of the forward confirmation. Then I clicked the booking link. There was a big button that said Manage Reservation. Under it, Cancel Booking. I stared at the word cancel so long my eyes started to sting. My thumb hovered. I could feel my heartbeat in the pad of my finger. And then I pressed it. The site asked if I was sure. It offered a partial refund. It showed a countdown of cancellation policy hours like it was a game. I clicked through slowly, reading every line because I didn't want to do something I'd regret. Then, when it confirmed the cancellation, a little green check appeared and the screen said, "Your reservation has been cancelled." I sat down at the kitchen table like my legs finally remembered they were allowed to stop holding me up. Then I opened a new tab, searched the cabin listing, and found it still available, same dates, same price, like the universe was daring me. I clicked reserve and filled it out under my name. My email. My card. 2 guests. Me and my sister, because I refused to be alone in the woods while my life collapsed. In the message to the host, I typed, "Hi, this is a rebooking. Please note I'm the only authorized guest for this stay. Thank you." I stared at that line for a second and felt my hands go steady in a way they hadn't been all morning. I hit confirm. When the confirmation email landed in my inbox, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt anchored. Like I'd grabbed something solid in the middle of being shoved off a cliff. It probably matters that I didn't do this because I'm some mastermind. I did it because I was tired of being the last person to know what was happening in my own marriage. Andrew and I had been together 8 years, married for 4. I'm 30. He's 33. We weren't the dramatic couple. We were the couple who made grocery lists on the fridge and argued about what show to watch and took turns walking the dog when it was raining. We'd been trying to have a baby for almost a year, and it had turned our lives into appointment calendars and hormones and quiet disappointment. We were both stressed. We were both tired. He'd started working later, traveling more, networking more. I told myself it was pressure. I told myself it was normal. I told myself not everything had to be a betrayal just because I felt lonely. But there were signs. Small ones that I kept explaining away like it was my job. He started guarding his phone. He started showering with it on the sink ledge like it needed supervision. He'd get texts and tilt the screen away from me without thinking. If I asked who he was talking to, he'd make a joke, my secret girlfriend, and then laugh like that was hilarious. I'd force a laugh back and pretend my stomach didn't tighten. He started taking more care with his appearance when he left the house, cologne on a Tuesday, ironed shirts for quick meetings, hair styled when he used to not care. And the weirdest part? He stopped planning anything with me. If I suggested a weekend away, he'd sigh like it was a burden. Not right now, he'd say. Work's insane. Then he'd scroll on his phone for 10 minutes straight, smiling at something he wouldn't share. So when I saw a romantic cabin booking, an anniversary note, my brain snapped into place. It wasn't the first red flag. It was the first one I could hold. I called my sister, Nina, with the iPad still open on the table. My voice cracked on the first sentence. "Can you talk?" I asked. "What's wrong?" she said immediately, "No small talk." "I found a booking email," I whispered. "A romantic cabin. Anniversary. 2 guests." There was a pause. I could hear her breathing shift. "Is it for you?" she asked carefully. "No," I said, and the word tasted like pennies. "It's not." "Okay," Nina said, and her voice went into that grounded older sister mode. "Where are you right now?" "In the kitchen." "Are you safe?" "Yes." "Good." "I'm coming over," she said. "Text me your address if you're not at home, but I'm assuming you are." I didn't even ask how she could come over on a workday. She just does things. That's who she is. After I hung up, I stared at the cancellation confirmation on the screen, then at the new booking under my name in my email, and my mind started racing ahead. Would he notice? Would he get a cancellation notification? Would he confront me? Would he lie? Would he panic? I had about 40 minutes before Andrew got home. I did something I'm not proud of, but I needed to know what kind of lie I was dealing with. I opened his email on the iPad again and searched the booking company name. There were other emails. Not a ton, but enough to make my chest go tight again. A dinner reservation. A thanks for last night message from someone named M. A thread with a coworker about covering for him on a Friday. I screenshotted the subject lines and dates, nothing overly personal, just proof that my gut hadn't invented this. Then I logged out. I wiped the iPad history. I put it back on the counter. And I sat there, hands folded, waiting for the sound of the front door. When Andrew came home, he looked flushed and happy in that post-gym way, like his body had gotten all the stress out and he was leaving the rest for me to hold. He grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge, drank half of it, and said, "I'm starving. Want to grab dinner tonight?" My stomach did a slow roll. "Sure," I said. "Where?" He shrugged. "Anywhere. Your pick." That was almost funny. Not because it was a joke, but because it was so empty. He was giving me the illusion of choice while he had a whole weekend booked for someone else. Nina arrived before I could decide whether to scream or go numb. She knocked once, came in, and took one look at my face. She didn't ask questions in the doorway. She just hugged me hard enough that I could finally exhale. Andrew blinked at her. "Hey, what's up?" Nina pulled back and smiled politely, sharp as a paper cut. "Sister visit," she said. "Hope that's okay." "Yeah," Andrew said, still confused. "Of course." I watched his eyes flick to me, just a quick check, like he was trying to read what I'd told her. My hands were steady in my lap. I made my face calm on purpose. Dinner that night was excruciating in the quietest way. Andrew talked about work. Nina asked him questions that sounded innocent but weren't. "Busy lately? Travel coming up?" And he answered too smoothly. He said he had a work thing next weekend. He said it casually, like it was already decided. I nodded and took a bite of pasta that tasted like cardboard. When we got home, he kissed my cheek and went to shower. Nina and I sat at the kitchen table in silence until we heard the bathroom door close. Then she leaned forward. "Show me," she said. I opened my phone and pulled up the forwarded email and the screenshots. Nina read them slowly, jaw tightening. "Andrew is a coward," she said quietly, not dramatic, just factual. "And you're not crazy." I swallowed hard. "I cancelled it," I said. "And I rebooked it." Nina's eyes lifted to mine. "Good," she said. The next day, I met with a lawyer. Not because I wanted to go scorched earth. Because I needed to know what I was allowed to do, what I should not do, and how to protect myself if Andrew decided to get ugly. The lawyer didn't tell me to destroy him. She told me to document, to keep finances stable, to not move money out of joint accounts without guidance, and to prioritize safety and clarity. Friday came faster than I expected. Andrew packed a bag that morning. He moved around the bedroom with a lightness I hadn't seen in months. He shaved. He hummed. He put on cologne. He told me he'd be off the grid for work and might have spotty reception. He said it like it was no big deal. I stood in the doorway holding a mug of coffee that had gone cold and watched him. "You okay?" he asked, smiling like he was a good husband. "I'm fine," I said. "Drive safe." He leaned in to kiss me. I let him, because pulling away would have turned this into a scene he could twist into "my wife is irrational." He grabbed his keys and left. I waited 10 minutes. Then Nina picked me up, and we drove. The cabin was 2.5 hours away. Trees thickened as we got closer, the road narrowing, cell service dropping out in patches. My stomach kept twisting with each mile, not with excitement, just dread and this strange need to see the truth with my own eyes, like screenshots weren't enough for my nervous system. The host met us at the driveway, friendly, chatty, handing over keys like this was any other weekend. The cabin smelled like pine and smoke and clean linens. The fireplace was already set up. There was a little basket on the table, chocolates, a bottle of wine, and a card that said "Happy Anniversary" in neat handwriting. I stared at it until my eyes burned. Nina picked the card up, flipped it over, and set it face down. "We don't need to look at that," she said. I nodded, throat tight. "I didn't request that," I whispered. The host looked confused. "Oh, sorry," she said quickly. "That was from the previous booking notes. I must have." "It's okay," Nina said gently. "It's not your fault." The host apologized again and left. The second her car disappeared down the drive, the silence rushed in. We didn't have long to wait. About 40 minutes later, a car crunched up the gravel. I felt it through the floorboards before I even saw it through the window. My whole body went cold, then hot. Nina moved beside me automatically, like she was bracing without making it obvious. A man's voice outside, Andrew's, laughing too loudly. Another voice with it. A woman's laugh, lighter, unfamiliar. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might choke on it. There was a knock. Not polite. Confident. Like someone who belongs there. I opened the door. Andrew stood on the porch, bag in hand, grin already forming, then dying when he saw me. His face drained so fast it looked unreal. Behind him, a woman froze mid-step. She was pretty in a normal way, neat hair, fitted jacket, makeup done like she'd planned photos. Her eyes flicked from me to Andrew like she was trying to understand a joke she didn't get. "What are you doing here?" Andrew whispered. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step aside. I just held the doorframe like it was the only solid thing in the world. "This is my reservation," I said, and my voice was calm enough to scare me. "I rebooked it." His mouth opened, then closed. His eyes darted to the door, the cabin behind me, the warm light spilling out. "No, he started, then stopped. He looked at the woman behind him like she might save him with a line. She stared at him. "You said you had it," she said, voice small but sharp. Andrew swallowed. "I did," he said, then looked back at me. "How did you?" "I saw the email," I said simply. "I cancelled it. Then I booked it under my name. Because I wanted you to understand something very clearly." His eyes flashed with anger for half a second, but it was drowned by panic. "This is insane," he hissed, like my calm action was the crazy part, not him driving 2 hours to a cabin with someone who isn't his wife. I took a slow breath. "What's insane," I said quietly, "is you writing anniversary to a host and thinking I'd never find out." The woman, Maya, as I'd later learn, looked like she'd been slapped. "Anniversary?" she repeated, staring at him. "You told me you were separated." Andrew turned slightly toward her, hands lifting in a placating gesture. "I am. I mean, we've been having issues." I shook my head once. Not at her. At him. "Don't," I said. "Don't rewrite it." Andrew's jaw clenched. He looked at me with this desperate, pleading anger. "Can we talk? Please. Not like this." I didn't move aside. I didn't invite him in. I didn't owe him a warm couch and a private conversation inside the cabin he booked to betray me. "You can talk," I said. "Right now. With her standing there. Because that's how you brought it here." He stared at me like he hated that I wasn't melting down. Like my calm was ruining whatever story he'd prepared. Then the woman behind him made a sound, half laugh, half sob, and stepped backward off the porch. "I can't do this," she said, voice shaking. "I can't be, whatever this is." She turned and walked quickly toward the car, keys already in hand. Andrew watched her go, then looked back at me, eyes wide. "Don't do this," he said, and his voice finally cracked. "Please." I felt the urge to cry rise like a wave. I swallowed it down. "You already did it," I said. "I'm just the one who showed up." He stood there for a second longer, like he might try one last manipulation. Then he turned and followed her, calling her name, stumbling on the gravel because he was rushing. When their car disappeared down the drive, my legs shook so badly I had to sit on the floor with my back against the wall. Nina sat beside me, shoulder pressed into mine, steady and warm. I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. Like I'd cut something out of my life and my body hadn't figured out how to fill the space yet. We stayed at the cabin anyway. Not because it felt romantic. Because I had already paid, and because I needed somewhere quiet to process without Andrew knocking on our front door and trying to talk me into softness. That night, Nina cooked frozen pizza and we ate it on paper towels because neither of us had the energy to pretend we were on a cozy getaway. I cried in the shower until my chest hurt. I stared at the ceiling in bed and replayed the way Andrew's face changed when he saw me, like he'd finally met the consequences he'd been outrunning. On Sunday, we drove home. I didn't rush to pack his things. I didn't post anything. I didn't call his mother. I did the boring, painful steps. I changed my passwords. I moved important documents into a folder. I emailed the lawyer to start the paperwork. I told Andrew, in writing, that we would only communicate through email and only about logistics. He called 27 times. I didn't answer. When he finally emailed, the message was long and full of words like mistake and confusion and pressure. He said he loved me. He said he never meant to hurt me. He said he didn't know how things got so far. I stared at the screen and realized I didn't care how it got so far. I cared that it did. I cared that he looked me in the face every day and still booked a cabin for anniversary with someone else. The cabin wasn't the revenge. The cabin was the line. It was me taking back the one thing he'd been trying to steal quietly, my reality. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. And if you've ever uncovered the truth in some random little way, an email, a booking, a receipt, a message you weren't meant to see, share your story in the comments. I read them, and it helps to know you're not alone when you stop being the person who believes the lies first.